Hey everyone, welcome to episode 72 of the Pickleball Effect podcast. Today I got a special guest with me. We've got John.
Braydon, good to see you, man.
This is take two. I botched the first. I just threw it off. You know, your mind just goes blank sometimes.
Oh, 100%.
It happens more than I care to admit.
So Braydon, it is great to be with you in beautiful Austin, Texas. I mean, I came from Colorado where it was frigid when I left.
Same here. Idaho's bit. I was like 40, 50s. Where are you at in Colorado?
We have nice Colorado weather in the spring where, you know, we have these bluebird sunny days and 50s feels like 70s given the bright sunshine and the lack of humidity. But it doesn't feel like this in Colorado
No, this feels
time
good.
of year.
It's a little windy, but like actual temperature, like heat-wise, it feels great.
Yeah, just came from the Texas Open, so I've been here for a week and enjoying the weather.
So that was in Dallas. We're in Austin today.
Exactly.
So I had planned this trip to come to Austin. I'm filming content with the place called The Lab. It's a court where they host, or a lot of pros play out of there and film content out of there. And so Ryan and Carlos own that little one-court facility. And it's one of the more like recognized courts kind of out there. And so they're really sharp. Anyways, I was filming content with them. We had planned this week separately. I didn't know you were going to be here. And then I knew you were going to the Dallas Open, and then I think you said something on your pod. Anyways, I saw you say somewhere you were coming here to film some stuff with Zane. The exact 2 days I was here, just happenstance.
Yeah, what a coincidence.
Yeah,
this is great. And we made this work. He sent me some notes last night, and we're going to do a pod.
Yeah, so we didn't know where to shoot, and we just drove. We found this park. And the city of Austin is behind us. We got a little river. I don't know what river it is.
I think it's the Colorado.
Is that the Colorado?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. And I don't shoot outside ever. And so I'm hoping that these camera settings are good enough. Luckily, John's smarter than me in this stuff. So
we'll see.
Hopefully the audio comes in well enough for y'all. But no, looking forward to this. We got some topics. I guess topic-wise, I just want to catch up with you a little bit about, you know, kind of how you're feeling with doing this full-time. We both started doing the full-time YouTube reviews around the same time and just want to get an update with you there. And then I want to talk about our paddle journeys. I thought, as I was thinking of something we could talk about, something fun that came to mind was you and I would both go through the 5-10 paddles we've switched to over the years and just talk through why we switched them and then lead up to what we're playing now and maybe what it would take to switch again. So I thought that would be fun. We'll go through our journeys. And then I have some paddles I played this week. We can get your take on with the Engage Innovations and just kind of Gen 1 tech in general, along with some final updates on some other paddles there with a conversation around foam I had with Justin recently. I wanted to get some of your thoughts on foam,
that was a good
cores.
podcast.
And so that's what I'm thinking for today.
That sounds good to me.
Sounds good?
Yeah.
So you're coming off Dallas. You played in the tournament. How'd you do?
I mean, typical for myself. I play worse in tournaments than I do, if you can believe it, than I do in rec play. So we went 1 and 2 in the men's 4-5 division. Eric, my men's doubles partner, and I. The first match, I played about average, and I was like, oh, I got this. And then that
was the one you won?
Yeah, we won that one in 2. And then the second match, we just got blown off the court from bangers. So I'm going to try to turn those lemons into lemonade here in Austin. So I'll be shooting some content with Zane Navratil tomorrow. And I thought I knew how to handle bangers. It hasn't,
a little windy.
Yeah. Hasn't been an issue for me since, the 3-0 to 4-0 journey. But 4-5 bangers, maybe just in Texas, I don't know, are a force to be reckoned with.
I mean, so I watched some of the pro stream. It looked insanely windy. Did you have windy days?
Yeah, but it was windy for them too.
Yeah, but I do think there is a factor of wind and the ability to hit it hard and cut through the wind. I think if you can penetrate the wind, use the wind to your advantage, if you're a banger style, you can get some upsets that you don't always get. Like Zane, for example, him and who did he play with? They almost upset Johns and...
Oh, yeah. Who was Zane's partner? I sat there at courtside and watched it. I forget his name, but...
Fu? Something
like that.
Anyways, they did that. They used the wind. They were playing hard. They were ripping it, and they've found some stuff, and then they almost got a big upset.
That was a tight match.
Wind makes pickleball weird.
It does. But they played. Like, they would have wicked drives no matter where they were playing. One of them, the dude with the biggest drive was playing with a Selkirk Lux. So I couldn't be like, oh, they blew us off the court with the mod. It was a Selkirk Lux. I mean, he was hitting like jack Jack Sock style drives. But he was just an exceptional, and he would hit this drive, get a pop up, and be there with this tennis backhand. It was just beautiful. So yeah, I mean, he was like a 5-0. I looked up his duper. They ended up winning gold after that. But I need to learn how to protect against that.
And nothing exploits your weaknesses like a tournament.
That's right. Now I know what to work on.
But that'll you're gonna do some content with Zane around that, you think?
Yeah. How to beat bangers at the 4.0, 4.5 level.
Just in general, managing those drives.
Yeah.
That'll be good. I will be watching your video.
No.
I will need to see that. So I just want to, aside of that, I want to get kind of an update on John and how things are going for you. So we both went, I guess I went full-time last year, February. When did you go all in, left your day job?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When was that?
About the same time last year. I mean, technically I was wrapping up a big project I had in archaeology until about April.
So it was like a part-timey kind of thing?
I mean, I was full-time until April, and then now I'm still on the books. I'm on call with the company I was working for, and I still have I'm still on permits in Colorado and here and there, and I do a little bit of admin stuff and review some reports, but I mean minimally.
Oh, really?
Maybe 2 hours, 4 hours a month,
Oh, that's nice.
In archaeology. Yeah. So it's been crazy to me how this has carried me, transformed my career, right?
Have you done anything, I don't know, entrepreneurial or owned your own business like this before?
Yeah, I had an LLC in archaeology as an archaeology consulting business in my 30s. And, I could have continued, but I would have had to take out a small business loan and hire admin people. And I learned lessons. I was trying to micromanage myself and do everything as a business owner. And now I know I need to hire people to do the things I'm not good at and focus on the things I am good at. So,
are you starting to do that now with your John Q business?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, admin stuff. Clearly, I need to have someone else do that. I've hired some editors. I love editing, but it's not the best use of my time.
I think I heard you say that in your last pod. We had talked a month ago or so at the YOLO thing. You were thinking about bringing on some editors. Sounds like you did it because they did your last couple of reviews.
Yeah.
So do they just do the reviews? You do podcasts, or they do everything?
So I've been sticking with the podcast because it only takes me a couple 3 hours to edit a podcast. Mm-hmm. But the paddle reviews are very labor intensive for that editing, and it's something that was a big learning curve for them too, because they were doing Kyle Kazuta's and Zane's videos as well. But mine are very
it's good.
Different.
Sounds like a good place to be.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, mine are so different, so tech oriented, but they really picked up quickly, and now they know my all my assets, all the graphics I use and how to use them and all that. So it's been great. It's freed up a lot of time for me.
So it's probably an initial heavy lift, but now you're just handed over and they do it kind of thing?
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.
I mean, how about you? I mean, you went full-time in February.
Yeah, I did full-time February too, and it's had its pros and cons. I've never owned my own business before, and one of the things I love the most is the autonomy. I do love owning my own time and being in control that way. And I've been doing corporate stuff for a long time, and I didn't mind it, but I do appreciate kind of working for myself. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize how much I was going to like it until you start doing it. So that's been great. And just little things of I can go to my girls' gymnastics without feeling guilty, or I can go to the gym at 1 o'clock if I'm not feeling like working at the moment, and that's been really healthy. But there's been a lot of challenges too on the family side, because I want to work. Whereas before, I checked out at 5 and I was just done, and your brain turns off. But now it's constant, right? Your mind's just always running. And I have the 3 little girls at home, and I'm not perfect at it yet. I've gotten better, but just managing the mental space, just compartmentalizing work and family and being present when I need to be, that's been hard for me to manage that aspect, and not working too much at nights and stuff, because there's always something to do. It's just endless, and I ended up kind of turning it into a little bit of a 9 to 5. And then I play all my pickleball. I don't really play in the evenings anymore like I used to. Everything's trying to be done before 5 o'clock, and then family time. And if I need to, if it's a busy a week or whatever, I'll do some evenings. But it's definitely gotten better, but it's been a challenge. It's been hard on my wife too. She's had to kind of learn how to manage me, and now that I want to work more and communicating and figuring out a thing that works for us. And that's still an ongoing process, and it's gotten better. But was something I wasn't anticipating that was going to be kind of hard to manage. I don't know. How does that work for you?
Yeah, totally the same. And, speaking of pros and cons, so many pros doing this, I love doing it. It's amazing to be self-employed and not have to report to other people. But yeah, definitely the cons are, you never want to stop. And first of all, you can't keep doing that all the time because eventually you will burn out.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to force yourself to kind of compartmentalize your life so that you're on the clock and off the clock, even though your home is your workplace and vice versa. But yeah, I'd say that's been the hardest thing. And part of me delegating some of these things like editing is to free up a little more time so I can be more present, around the family.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
Michelle, my wife, has been just completely supportive, fantastic with this. But, it sucks for her, right? Not just that I'm not as present, but also, she's been so busy, but she's been busy at work and with Henry, her son, and my stepson. And it's, there's some envy there, she's open about it, but she's like, it's like you're retired all of a sudden and I'm still grinding away at my work that I've been doing for 20 years now. And, and it's hard for me to come home and be like, I had the most amazing day. You wouldn't believe what happened to me today.
That's the thing. No, we've had conversations like that too. She's like, oh, Braydon, you get to go on these trips to Austin and they look fun and they are fun. And she can get a little envy there, but at the same time, like it's work too. But yeah, there is that little dynamic where she, like my wife, she's a stay-at-home mom, but she feels that too. And I don't know what the answer is. I need maybe bring her on more stuff where we can kind of, which would be really fun. Maybe finding a way. A challenge for us is we're in Idaho. We don't have any family around, and so like finding babysitters and people to watch the kids, if we wanted to just go together, is a little trickier. But yeah, that's another one that's kind of come up that I wasn't expecting.
If the tables are turned, I'd be so envious, right? so I have to be, clearly I'm open with her, and I'm like, but I'm not just constantly coming at her at first thing like, my day was amazing, how was yours? So yeah,
I also have a lot of like, my emotions are so up and down sometimes. Windy, where you have these highs where things are rolling, and then you see like a negative comment online, all of a sudden I'm like all droopy and down. I go up and down a lot more than I used to. Are you that way at all?
I'm pretty up most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time.
That's another issue.
So I need to go see a therapist.
But that's an issue, right? Is that the more visibility you have out there, the more negativity you see. But and we can all remind ourselves that it's 99% positive, and there's so much support out there, and I know that. But you're as humans, we're conditioned to focus on the negative things, right? That's like an evolutionary adaptation, right? You got to make sure you're not going to get, in prehistoric times, eaten by the polar bear or whatever's around the corner. So you're constantly looking out for trouble. But we're trained to focus on that, and yeah, it sucks to read negative comments when they're there. But that's the topic of another podcast. We could go on that for hours. Right?
Yeah. Do you? Anyways, overall, it's been such a blessing, and it's been really cool. I feel very fortunate to be in the position we're in because it's really cool and unique, and I understand that. And sometimes when I get in a negative headspace for whatever reason, I think it's okay. I've learned to let myself be okay to have a bad day and not be like, oh, Braydon, you have such a cool job. You're not allowed to feel unhappy, and so. Because we are in such a cool spot, and I feel very fortunate that way. But it's been different. It's been fun.
Yeah, I certainly feel I wouldn't say sadness, but anxiety. Like, oh my God, this is amazing. I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to keep it amazing. So the anxiety that you're not going to perform as you could, or you're not taking all the right precautions and all that. But at the end of the day, I try to just I got into this by good luck and doing what I find interesting, and other people have found that interesting too. So I just want to be able to trust myself that my instincts are correct. You
have such a good thing going, John. It's been so fun watching you grow your channel, find your style, find your space, and you've built a really loyal audience of following. And I've really enjoyed watching you do it. It's really cool, really impressive what you built. The whole PB Core machine has been so cool, and I love seeing your, what was it, Tales from the Basement? What do you call your segment?
Tales from the Ball Cannon, right?
Anyways, I really feel like you found your stride, you're moving, you have your own voice, your own style, it works, and I really enjoy watching your stuff. And
I appreciate that. What I love about this is that we all have developed our own styles, right? We're in the same space, but we're all doing our own thing because we all have our own personalities and interests.
Yeah, and I like that we're friends.
Yeah, 100%.
It's been really healthy, like to have people to talk to like this.
Yeah,
and speak through ideas and things, and really value our friendships a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that, I've been through a lot. I'm a lot older than all of you guys, and I was in the academic world for a while, and that is just, it can be a snake pit of, big egos and competition. And in the workforce, I'm sure you experienced it too. It's not always pleasant, but so far, and knock on wood, this has all been, you've been amazingly open, Chris, and everybody in the space has been a pleasure to work with, and so I feel very grateful about that.
Yeah, me too. I hope it lasts for a little bit longer.
Yeah, me too.
I'm always like, oh man, this is going to end any day now. When's it going to stop?
Yeah. Well, I know your character. I know Chris's character, and everybody else that we interact with on the regular. And I think it will last. Yeah. At least for us.
What's your vision for your channel and what you got going on? Like, if you were to give me like a 1-year plan of how things are shifting and moving for you, what would you say?
I hope to increase my output. 2 to 3 videos per week.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and that includes every other week the breakthrough, which is not gear related. But yeah, hello, Win. It reminds me of competing in Dallas a few days ago. But
still fighting it.
What's your kind of ultimate goal?
I don't know. It could go in a few different directions. I could take it more, like I have the strong website. I'd turn it into more of like a news plus gear plus, maybe expand the website some. Maybe I don't know. I feel like there's a few directions I could maybe move it. I've been working really closely with Aaron. I would love to have Aaron on board full time. I think having a duo working together can do a lot more than just me by myself.
Yeah.
Aaron's really sharp, obviously very good at editing, but I think can bring a lot to the table other than that. And we've kind of flirted with that idea a little bit, and that would be cool if that came to fruition and see what we could build together. But yeah, I just want to keep being fun, enjoy it, and just while it's here.
Yeah. You and I are heading next weekend to Florida for the Racquetx Conference. We're going to be on a panel.
I'm excited about that.
Interviewing the PPL guys. And, I see that as kind of a continuation of where we've come, where we're going, and paddle regulations has been a big topic lately. So, I think focusing on that as well between us and other like-minded reviewers is going to be a big thing. I've got the basement set up, and I fully intend on having a Q core in my paddle database.
I love it. I love it.
And I use your website as inspiration for where I can take my website, how I can improve my website. And, I want that to be a resource for beginners to pros.
Yeah, I think that's smart.
Everywhere in between, and
Yeah, I'm really excited about next week. So the panel will be cool, but what I'm most excited about is the test we're going to run with, what do you call it? Degradation.
Yeah, so accelerated break-in.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
Tell us what we're going to do there, because this is really cool.
Right. So I got permission from David at 11624 and Rafa at Gearbox. They sent me paddles to send to PPL, and they're going to run their PB Core, which is PEF, paddle efficiency factor. And of the new paddles, when we get there, you and I are going to run our Stalker 3S radar gun, power, pop, and spin. Then they have a new machine that they're going to roll out. I have no idea what it looks like, what exactly it does, but it's called the ABI, accelerated break-in, and they're going to use this for permitting purposes, but they're going to show us how to use it there. They'll break into paddles, which takes minutes, and then we're going to rerun our tests for power and pop with the radar gun. They're going to send it back to the lab. I think we're all going to the lab on Monday. They're going to rerun their PB core, PEF tests, and also deflection before and after. And we're just going to see how everything looks together.
This is going to be so fun. So we're going to have the gearbox, the rib core, break-ins, 2 styles. Yep. His new one, the 2.0, plus the Pro Power ones, which I think are known for getting hotter more than some cores. So it'll be really interesting to see if that's just perceptive or real. And then the 11.624, we're going to have a Gen 3 floating core. Then we're going to have, he's doing an all-core and
Jelly bean.
So those are both kind of a Gen 1.5 style where they're partly thermoformed. And so I wish we had just a classic Gen 2 thermo and to see, but
maybe we can grab one.
This will give us a really good idea of what that looks like, because no one's ever really done anything like this to this many paddles.
For sure, yeah.
So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, it's really cool too that PPL is willing to just kind of, be open and like, all right, how does this work and how does it compare with the data that you all are getting?
Yeah. So that'll be fun. That'll be next week. We'll report on that and probably separately on our pods. But moving over to the next section here, I wanted to talk through our paddle journeys. Let's go through yours first. We'll go through mine second. So you have your paddles dated back to 2021 of what you've used. So let's just kind of go year by year. We'll go 2021, 22, 23, 24 to current paddles you went through, why you switched, and let's just kind of talk through that.
Sounds good.
I want to take a break now to say thank you to our sponsors. We have our hydration partner, Holy, Slice. They did the speed coins and speed caps. And then ADV bags. I've been traveling this week, have my ADV bag on me. These are all brands I endorse. These are products I use. Go learn more about them. I have links in the description, and you can use the code PBEffect to get a discount on any of these products.
2021, John's just starting pickleball. What does he start with?
So I went to Dick's and bought the Monarch Mercenary graphite paddle. I was like, ooh, graphite.
I don't think I've ever hit that one.
It's nothing special. I mean,
but I do know what you're talking about.
I guess it's okay. Yeah, just almost no grit at all, the spray-on grip. And I think it was a standard shape paddle. It's funny, I actually have my beginning paddles in my database. I didn't record Power and Pop, but I got to spin, when I
you still
first
got them
started
on
the
there.
database. So
that's awesome.
If you go to the website and look at my database.
Okay, so you get that paddle, and you're like, okay, I'm ready to get a new one. Let's get my first real paddle. What do you get?
I went for the Selkirk, so same year, 2021, Selkirk Invicta Amped. This is their shorter handle, but elongated shape, it's blue. And it just, again, I was just like, oh, Selkirk is a big name, they've got to make great paddles.
I think everyone gets a Selkirk at one point in their journey.
Yeah, it was a 16 millimeter, definitely an upgrade.
Do you remember feeling a big difference from that one up to the Amped?
Yeah, for sure.
At the time, the Amped was the paddle in 2021.
Yeah, that's right.
It was probably one of the better ones you could get.
Yeah, and today, very much control-oriented paddle. Then, probably all court-ish.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one got, in my spin test, 1,200 RPM. The Monarch Mercenary got 1,100.
Oh, you could remember? Or you pulled
them? I pulled them
got them pulled up?
I came. Yeah. I spent way too much time on this braid. And I had to go back and look at my receipts from Pickleball Central and stuff.
No, you didn't.
Yeah. I knew what paddles I bought, but then to fill in the gaps, I'm like, oh, I forgot about the carbon.
You got more paddles in here than I had listed. I just went off memory. You're going off receipts. This is the difference between you and I, John. That's great.
And then at the end of 2021, I took the plunge, bought the Ben John signature paddle, max grit from Franklin.
Was that this is what Ben plays, I want to play it too purchase?
Yeah, I think that heavily influenced me. I was like, that's the number one player. And yeah, you want to try his paddle out. Yeah.
That one's not terribly different from the Amped, is it?
I mean, it's a better shape. The Amped is too narrow, even though it's 16.5 inch long. I think it's under 7.5 inches. So I noticed the sweet spot was bigger on the Ben Johns, It had longer handle. It felt better.
Really bulky. I remember that handle being just
oh my God,
thick.
Yeah, which at the time I loved.
Oh, did you?
I was coming from tennis, so I loved the really thick grips. I think I even put on a couple of over grips over that to make it even thicker.
Yeah, that was a hunk.
Yeah. How about you, Braydon? You started in 2021.
Let's keep going. Okay. We're not done with you yet. Okay. We made it through 2020. When did you start doing reviews?
2022.
Okay, so we're coming into your 2022 era. You got Electra Model E as your next one.
Going through these, it made me realize how frequently I switch paddles. I was such a gear junkie from the start. Before I even thought about becoming a paddle reviewer. All right, so...
sorry to cut you off, but it is interesting that your 2021, 2022 list is very long. As you get further down the line, you start switching less.
Yeah.
And that's probably because you know what you like now.
Yeah.
And switching doesn't happen as frequently, which is both of us were actually that way. I don't have every single paddle I did, but I switch less now than I did a couple of years ago.
Right. So 2022 is my year of experimentation with paddles.
It looks like it.
So, Electra Model E, I started the year off with, which I loved that paddle. I think I remember watching Chris Olsen.
Review that one?
Yeah, I think he reviewed it, and I was like, I'm going to try that. And that was my first raw carbon fiber paddle. And the spin that it generated was so much superior to...
Yeah, that was like a night and day difference when we started seeing those come out.
Yeah, for sure. Big, soft paddle, that Electra Model E, but I loved
that thing was so muted and heavy.
Yeah.
Like people were playing singles with that on Pro Tour, and they could never get away with that now. They would just get crushed.
But they're like, oh, this spins great. This is perfect for singles. Second paddle, this is when Yola first entered the pickleball space, and big news in 2022 that Ben John switched from Franklin to Yola. So I wanted to try one of his paddles. So I actually didn't get the raw carbon fiber one first. I went to his Hyperion CAS, which is that blue one.
The blue one, the blue like rib design, yeah.
Yeah, it has the grit texture, and it's like a fiberglass paddle. And I actually loved that thing. And I played with that for quite a while. And I went from... later bought the raw carbon fiber, so the CFS Hyperion, and it took me a hot minute to get used to that. It actually felt like the sweet spot was smaller on that one, even though it's not. And it was just... I don't know what was going on. It was definitely a heavier paddle for sure. Maybe that's the hand.
Yeah, that thing was a hunk.
Screwing me up.
I think they toned that back a little bit over time, that weight. But when it first came out, that thing was heavy.
That's before we even thought about doing swing weight.
Yeah, swimming wasn't even a thing really yet.
And that thing had to be high 120s for sure.
Yeah, I remember watching, or in my review, I remember calling out how heavy it was and how hard it was to flick. And I don't know what the swing weights were when they first came out, but I bet it was up there.
Yeah. All right, so in between the two Yolas, I had a Carbon 1. I wanted to try the Carbon.
Everyone did.
Yeah, I got the 13 millimeter. I could not stand it.
That thing was not 13 millimeters. That thing had to be an 11. Do you remember that?
It was so
thin.
Stiff as a board. I should have gone 16, but I was like, oh, I see some pros playing with the 13. It must be good. I never did the small sweet spot on that. I just couldn't get used to it. Then I went Racquetx Pro Spin. That was my first paddle review. I think it was like September of 2022.
I don't think I've ever seen it, but I've seen the thumbnail.
It's goofy. It's the worst. Like, it's good to throw out a video because you know it's gonna suck and compare it. Like, as you get better.
I gotta go back and watch it tonight.
It's cringeworthy. But mostly I was like, I wanted to test the spin, given that it was advertised as a spin paddle. I came in at like 1400, and then it was underwhelming, right? So that was my first review was a negative review. All right, and then I went to the Selkirk Vanguard Power Air, another paddle I never liked. Yeah, that one came out. I forgot that came out in 2022.
You were sticking with these thinner poppy paddles for a minute.
I didn't know back then. And then, the Racquetx Black Ace. I actually loved that paddle. I made that for like 3 months. That was my second review, I think, or third video, second review, and that came out in like December.
So switching paddles in 2022, that was more of, I want to try something new. It wasn't, I think this paddle is going to be better for me. Did you shift later of your decision making around paddle selection versus then versus now?
I think 2022 is still me trying to find a paddle for myself and as an offshoot doing some paddle reviews, of the paddles I was getting. So I think 2023 was the year I kind of locked into, okay, I'm a paddle reviewer now. I need to test the diversity of paddles that's out there for people, right?
Okay, 2023, just finished playing with the Black Ace.
Yep, went to 6-0 Black Diamond, not the double black. I went to the
black.
Yeah, the fiberglass.
It makes sense. I mean, you had played a few power paddles there in a row, Poppy.
Yep.
So it makes sense you'd be a little more attracted to that one.
Yeah, loved that paddle. I mained it for 3 months. That was back before we knew what core crushing, core corruption was. And I just thought, man, my drives are getting good. I am the most powerful player on the court all the time. I just have an amazing forehand. And then I realized, wait a second.
I remember my very first Black Diamond. You said it. We didn't know what it was. It got that way really fast. I was just like, what?
So 3 months later, I realized, it's not me, it's the paddle. I couldn't control it after a while also. And then that was my first dissection video too.
Oh, that was the one?
Yeah, I dissected that. And interestingly, the chorus crush just mangled, right? But the main thing I noticed, in addition to the core crushing, was it was disbonded. You know,
it was a
at that
double
time we
whammy.
were calling it delamination.
Yeah.
I was looking for like delamination in the face layup. Those were still glued together, but man, the whole face sheet was just coming off of the polypropylene, because the polypropylene was just
So it was like a double whammy. It
gummy.
was,
Yeah. So you had this gap in between this bubble basically, and with thermoform paddles, they're basically pressurized like a drum head, right? So you got that gap between the
probably stayed firm and stiff, and then just gave you the.
boom. Yeah, that thing.
Right.
It
It was loud too. I remember mine being really loud.
Yep. Okay, so black diamond to the double black diamond to the rhombus R3 pulsar to the bread and butter filth.
Okay, there's got to be some reasoning behind these switches, because at this point, you know what you're looking at, what you play.
Yep.
So why do you remember having a reason going from the double black diamond to the rhombus to the bread and butter?
Yeah, that was mostly me testing new paddles to review, right, and shifting over to those for my main.
Because I mean, those are all fairly similar. Like the pulsar and the bread and butter filth, I feel like are same vein.
Yep.
So that was just okay. This one's a little newer.
Yeah.
Feels good.
And I wouldn't call those necessarily my main. Like the rhombus R3 felt great. It was nice and soft and plush, and the bread and butter filth was more poppy, and I enjoyed that too. My main for 2023 was the Apes Proline Energy.
Yeah, you kind of brought Apes into existence with this one.
But yeah, I mean, they put out a great paddle, and you know, I wouldn't play with that shape now.
Yeah, it was extra elongated.
Yeah, it's extra long handle, 6-inch handle.
Remind me why you were drawn to that one at the time?
Again, I was still coming off of my tennis background, and you know, I wanted a longer paddle for longer reach and an extra long handle for two-handed backhands. And that was before I was really trying to stick with two hands, like on a tennis racket for a two-handed backhand, before I was able to adapt to putting a finger on the back of the paddle.
Yeah,
so now
what's the handle on that thing, like 6.5?
Yeah, I think it's over 6 somewhere. But yeah, I mean, I love that thing, and goes to show you can get used to any shape, you know. I felt like the sweet spot was fine on it, because I was hitting mostly off center. When I was hitting off center, it was like up and down rather than right and left. So I kind of got that dialed in. I played with that thing for like, I want to say 6 months. You know?
Have you picked it up recently?
No. I mean, after that time, I'd go back and kind of retest it to get dialed in and compare it to other paddles, but definitely not my shape anymore.
Do you think that shape will ever hit mainstream? I feel like it's pretty unique.
I mean, no, probably not.
I think there's a couple people that have tried going longer than 16.5, and nothing's really. Other than that, like that one picked up steam. You were playing with it. I felt like for a while, you know, kind of on the back of you really liking it. A lot of people played it, and a lot of people did like it.
Yeah.
But that's the only paddle that's really gained traction with that shape.
Yeah, I think so. And that introduced Kevlar to the market.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it was kind of a double whammy there.
Right. And
that was their only paddle at the time, right?
Yeah.
They launched with an extra elongated. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would get away with that now.
And that was the first 3K woven cloth surface with the peel ply over the top of it.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That took me to the 6-0 Ruby. That was my next main at the end of 2023.
So that's shape-wise, it's pretty different.
Mm-hmm, right.
What inspired that one?
I mean, the Kevlar. And once I went to that shape and Kevlar, like I loved the way Kevlar felt, especially when it was initially introduced. You know, there's a lot of variability in Kevlar now. But when it was introduced, you know, it had kind of a vibration damping effect. A little softer, less poppy, but plenty of power. I liked that profile at the time. And the 6-0 Ruby had a wider sweet spot than the Apes, given its shape as a hybrid.
So, that was a pretty big jump in shape. Did you feel like you lost your reach? Did that take some adjustment, or you just immediately said, I like the big sweet spot, I like the lighter weight?
Yeah. I mean, it took adjustment. I shanked a few off the edge guard on the top before, but that's literally like a few games, right? Yeah. But the trade-off in terms of sweet spot width, I think is so much better.
So much better.
Right.
Can you transition between shapes pretty easily now?
Yeah, although it's funny, I'm still constantly shifting. Like I went down, like I started extra elongated. Eventually, I ended up in the wide body as my preferred shape, and now I'm back to hybrid.
It's a hybrid.
But going to wide body paddles and testing them, I'm just like, these don't feel right anymore.
Yeah.
Like, how is it that 3 months ago I
was liking
my
this
shape? You know, but
yeah.
I mean, I still like it, and I could totally go back, but it would take some adjustment.
Yeah, I think over time, as I've tested and just gone between so many paddles, I think I can switch between shapes pretty seamlessly, more so than probably the average player. And I imagine you're the same way, just because we play so many. But yeah, I definitely have a preference for the shorter stuff now.
Yeah. Okay, that was the end of 2023. Let's go through 2024 quickly.
So, okay, let's count how many paddles. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You had 6 in 2023. 2024, we only have 3.
Yeah. At that time, I realized I can't keep switching paddles, if I want to keep improving my game, which I don't know if that's helped actually, Braydon, because
really?
I was a 4.0 then, I'm a 4.0 now.
No, you have improved a lot, my man.
So 2024, I started the first one. After the 6-0 Ruby, I played with that for 3-4 months, and then of course Shapeshifter came along. That became my main. Then the Honolulu J2K. I wouldn't say that was my main. That was a couple of months, but I did enjoy that
in between,
a lot.
yeah.
Yep, and then the Paddletech ESQC, and I'm kind of really stretching to call those last 2 mains. I think I played with the Chorus Shapeshifter like 6 months through
that was
2024.
The big 2024 one, yeah.
And
so when you switch a paddle, okay, you're going from Ruby to Shapeshifter. At least for me, it's not always a conscious, this was what I've been looking for more of. Sometimes it's like, I just like this, and then, I like the extra power. Is it a conscious decision? Like, I wish I had a little more power. You find something that has it. Or is it just a paddle comes along, you like it, and it just happens to have something you didn't realize you were missing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes both ways, right? Like you kind of want to move your game to a certain point, from one point to another point, and you realize that there are paddles that can help you do that. And then there's also, we test so many paddles that sometimes you just pick up a paddle and you're like, I was missing this, I didn't know it, So that's kind of, like the Core Shapeshifter at the time, very much control leaning all court paddle, and I needed that.
I think it gave you a little more punch from the baseline over the Ruby, but similar control level probably.
Yeah. And I didn't need a power paddle at the time.
And the Shapeshifter was one of the first to do like the CCF layup and really popularize that design. Them along with 11.624 started calling out that they have these different layups,
right,
and how they affect performance. And that was kind of a fun transition that was started with the Shapeshifter.
Yeah, for sure. Kudos to Matt for being creative with the recipe for paddles. And then, Paddletech ESQC, the 12.7, ton of fun. I had a blast with that, and then realized, I'm not ready to be this level of a power player. And then that took us to this year, and to the 11.624 Vapor Power.
The Vapor Power.
I think all of us were in the same boat. And early this year, there's so many paddles coming out. None of us really had a main. It was just like we kept having to test new paddles. So once I tested the 11.624 Vapor Power, I just kept coming back to it, and enjoying playing with it. And it's been my main now for 3 months again.
They're really good paddles. I could totally be maining the Vapor Power. I'm cutting up some video right now for some lessons. Some virtual lessons I'm gonna take, and I'm cutting up my games I recorded from the Vapor Pro review. And I was like, wow, I was playing really good with that thing. That's a really good points.
Yeah,
it's a good paddle
for sure.
All right,
let's hear yours at Braydon.
Mine is not as fleshed out as yours.
Okay.
What I did to remember what I played was I just went through my website and looked at all my reviews. It's like, I stuck with that one for a minute. So I'm sure there's some paddles I had little stints with in between, but these are the paddles I played most of for these years. So 2021, I started doing reviews in 2021, or actually late 2020. I don't even my very first paddle before I even did reviews was a Paddletech. It was one of the original Bantam. I don't know if it was the Bantam or it was just a Paddletech. I just remember that. Before that, I got that for free from a thing I had won. That's why I played with it. Like, this is when I just first started playing, and then I started doing reviews. Like right after that, my initial spark to do reviews was partly to get free gear because I wanted to explore paddles, and I was like, I bet if I made a website and said I'd do reviews, someone would send me a paddle. So I accomplished that goal.
Okay.
I got some paddles.
I've got to go back and watch your first review. I don't think I've seen it. Maybe I did, because I remember you inspiring me.
I lost them all. I lost a lot of them. So my first 5-6 video reviews, I lost because my YouTube channel got shut down. I had to create a new one.
How to get shut down?
So I don't have the originals. So when I started my channel, I worked for this digital marketing company, and I made my YouTube channel. I didn't realize this, but I made my YouTube channel with my company email.
Oh, no.
And so when I left the company, my YouTube channel went with it.
Yeah,
and I had about 1,000 subscribers or something at the time, and it took me a year or so to make that, and so it was a big bummer. And just started over. But so I don't have my videos for my first 5, but I do have the written reviews.
I wish I didn't have my first 5 videos.
It would have been fun to watch and see where they're at, but that's what happened to that. Anyways, so got an ant on my phone. Get out of here. So I'm just going back to 2021. I remember my main paddle that year being the Gearbox CP7. This was a $100 paddle, elongated. I think it was a 13 millimeter. They had an 8 ounce and an 8.5 ounce option. I played the 8.5 ounce. I mean, looking back, I would never recommend this paddle to somebody who's just getting started. But at the time, I was like, oh, this feels good. It had a really coarse paint grit that got good spin initially, and I was attracted to that. Mm-hmm. And that's what I played with. It was the elongated. 2022 comes around. So this is when Yola comes into play. I was looking at all my reviews. The only paddle I remember sticking with in that year was the Yola Solaire CFS 14.
Solaire, okay.
So that was the first long-handled wide body shape.
Right.
They came out with that Solaire. I didn't give it enough credit because it was a good paddle.
That's such a progressive paddle. When you go back and look at the history of what was put out by Yola and other, like, that one was way ahead of its time.
Super ahead of its time. It had the edge foam. It had a molded handle. Yeah. Yola went away from the molded handles for some reason, but at the time, those first ones were molded. Yeah. It was. I remember it being very heavy, though.
It was heavy, but man, that thing, big old sweet spot.
Big old sweet spot. Felt so plush, and I liked that. And anyways, that was even now I like thinner core paddles, and back then. It seems like I did too, because the CP7 was thinner. This is the CFS 14. And then 2023 comes. I pick up the DBD, the double black diamond. This was early. This is January 2023. So this was the first thermoform. I was just attracted to the bigger sweet spot. Thermoform paddles don't feel super stiff now because we're just so accustomed to it. But at the time, it felt really stiff to me, and it took me a minute to adjust. But I was just attracted to the bigger sweet spot, a little extra power, right? And and it was lighter. I liked that it was lighter, even though the CFS 14 was a wide body. It was still very heavy. Yeah. I don't know what the swing weight is, but it's high teens, maybe even 20, which is kind of bizarre.
Yeah. I remember like the double black diamonds came out, and all the original thermoform paddles, and it was just like the sweet spot is noticeably larger, especially, I mean, all around, but like getting down close at the throat and up to the top.
Just night and day difference.
Wow, this actually has response. The ball comes off of the paddle up here.
So that was big. So I played with that for a minute, and then I switched to the Prism Flash 16. So this was a little bit of a compromise between the CFS and the DBD, because although I liked the bigger sweet spot, I was still attracted to that super plush feel. And so I switched to the Prism Flash 16, same shape as the DBD, just softer. It was more forgiving than past gen, maybe not quite as good as DBD, but still good. And I played with that one for a long time in 2023. And then towards the end of 2023, I switched to the Mach 2 4s of 14. So back to a 14 millimeter, back to my wide body with a long handle. And when that 14 came out, I touted that one pretty hard for its progressive shape. But in reality, it was the Solaire that was the first to really kind of push that. But these guys, for some reason, I gravitated and realized that it was different. Right. And so I liked the lower launch angle of the 14, but it has the bigger sweet spot. I think I would play a 14 in a longer shape if it was forgiving enough. At the time, I certainly don't think I had the skill level to manage a longer, thinner paddle.
That was such a great paddle. You and I both reviewed the Mach 2 4s around the same time. Yep. And that was one of my favorite paddles that I didn't think I was going to like, that I just absolutely loved after I reviewed it.
Yeah, that thing was great. And I think it kind of opened the door for a lot of people who wanted to try a 14 millimeter for the same reasons I liked 14s, but needed that more forgiving shape.
Right.
And that was kind of the start of the wide body transition. I think with this Forza started to popularize that shape. We started to see more companies come out with it, and I'm still a big fan of wide body. I think wide bodies and hybrids are the superior shapes in my opinion for weight forgiveness, and it just matches more people than elongated does.
I'm with you.
That was that one. I played with that one for a good while. I think when we first met, I was playing the 14 and we did that thing in Vegas. And then, so those were the 3 paddles I had in 2023, 2024. I jumped around a lot. So I was playing the Mach 2 Forza for a good first part, like end of 2023, first part of 2024. And then I kind of hopped. I think I did a lot of reviews, tried different paddles. I was looking for something with a little better feel than the Mach 2 14 and maybe a little more juice. And then I played with the J2K for a bit. It gave me that. But I was still wanted that wide body shape, and then I eventually switched to the ESQC 12.7, which is a big jump in firepower.
Right.
That thing, I played that for a while, then I switched to some other paddles. I went and played it the other day for some comparisons, and I was like, oh my goodness, this thing is juicy, so poppy. I forgot how much firepower it had, and I played with that for a good chunk of 2024. It's kind of a similar move for the Mach 4 14, but it just did it better, I think. Super lightweight. You can customize it, get that power offense that I wanted. But I think at the end of the day, it might have been too much for me. And that's why I switched to what I'm playing now, which is the Carbon True Foam 2. It's not quite as jumpy and powerful. It's toned back a little bit, but I still feel like I have the put away of power when I need it. Those True Foams can be a bit springy when you lay into them, and you can finish balls with them, but when the ball is slower, it feels really comfortable. It's a little more forgiving near the top, which was one of the drawbacks to the Paddletex, and I was drawn to that. So I guess it was kind of a feel and sweet spot move, plus the a little toned down in power, so the kind of that all-court leaning power, and that's where I'm at now with it. If I were to switch and find think of what my next paddle could be, I want to consider going back to a hybrid as my game gets a little more offensive looking, and as I get better, I don't think that the need for that huge sweet spot is quite as necessary.
Right. Though
it's still an important factor for me. So I might flirt with some hybrids. Like if they came out with a True Foam in the hybrid, or like the Vapor Power, I was flirting with, I liked a lot. I think I could switch to something in there. Maybe if there's a 14 that's particularly forgiving, that feels really good in that hybrid shape, I could potentially switch to. But I'm really liking the True Foam 2 right now. If you were to switch from the Vapor Power, what do you think it would take?
Well, I mean, first point about the Vapor Power is it's actually closer to a wide body than it is to
it's like barely above 16. It's like what, 16.1, 16.2 or something?
Yeah, it's 16.15 or something like that, and it makes up for it in the width. So it looks more like a hybrid or even elongated, but it plays closer to a wide body. So that's a really good transition paddle for people looking to experiment with
something
longer
a little bit
paddles
longer
above a wide body.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But
maybe I should go back to it.
But yeah, I mean, what would it take to get me off of it? I mean, I don't have any plans on leaving it because I'm pretty dialed into it. But
other than this weekend in Dallas,
yeah, I mean that's par for the course for me, man. my game is up and down, mostly down. But
whatever.
I think it would have to do more with feel, because I love actually where the Vapor Power is and all the 11624 power line is in terms of the overall firepower, the pop power balance. Spins great, as most raw carbon fiber paddles are these days. But I think it would be more like, it'd have to be something in the feel of the paddle, vibration frequencies, a little bit more plush, to pull me off of that, maybe something along the lines of a hybrid-shaped Yola Pro 4,
Yeah, I wish they would make one.
Yeah. I mean, they've got so many paddles in their lineup. They probably
have 4
aren't.
elongated shapes.
But yeah. But right now, I'm not on wide body, or else I go with the Scorpius. But I love the feel of the all those Pro 4s, I think they did a great job on improving the feel and the sweet spot. But the shape's just not there for me in the Yola lineup. But have that feel of a paddle and that similar level of firepower.
So you kind of like that Gen 3 hollowish feel? You're drawn to that?
Yeah, I think it's several factors. It's like there's several sensory things. Clearly the firepower is important. The vibration frequencies and the plushness I enjoy. Although we'll talk about the GX2 in a minute. And that's maybe going overboard with
the plushness.
Plushness and vibration damping. But there's that. And there's also an auditory cue. I love the bassier sounds of Gen 3 paddles. It's more pleasant to me. Just like there's...
Sounds like a drum.
Yeah, it does, exactly. It feels more like a drum too, something about like a drum head, and we get it tuned just right.
So if you are a previous drummer like John, this is your feel.
Right. So yeah, something feel wise, I think is what I would take.
All right, let's go. Let's just talk about kind of some paddles we've been playing, and I want to pick your brain on Gen 1 thoughts, if Gen 1 is still relevant. The reason I want to ask you this is because I've been playing with the Engage Innovations. This is their new paddle coming out. This is another one of an iteration off of their Pro 1 series. So have you had a chance to hit these yet?
No, I left before they arrived. I saw the FedEx.
Yeah, so I just got them last week. I've run the numbers on. They do have some good power. They're definitely more powerful than the Pro 1s, but they're also significantly heavier. So they have a 15.2 and a 12.7. The 15.2 was it was 124, 125 swing weight, and then the 12.7 was it was close to 120.
Okay.
So feel-wise, it kind of is reminiscent of the original Pursuits, if you remember those, how it is like a little very natural, pleasant feel, softer, but the power was still there. So it kind of goes back to that, because the Pro 1s are light and have a little bit of a hollow feel to them. These are more dense, plusher than those.
Okay.
So it goes back to how the feel was before, but that's also going back to the weight. If you remember, the weight on the original Pursuits were also very heavy, and so they have some sort of nice little combination with how they weight those original Pursuits that gave them a little extra juice. Because I think the Pro 1s were toned down a little bit from the original Pursuits, but had the benefit of the lightness. So this one is kind of a nod back to the original Pursuits, same weight, bigger power. But the sweet spots on them, even with them being as heavy as they are still just not as good as a thermoform paddle. And it's, to me, makes me question if Gen 1 is really can make paddles that are competing with the Yolas of the, because Yola, I feel like, is at the top of the game in terms of power plus forgiveness. You can get both. You didn't always have that together, but you get that really nice combination. 11.624 is another example where you can get power plus forgiveness with some of these newer technologies. And this Gen 1 style, I'm not convinced can do it anymore to keep up with some of the latest tech. And yes, I think there's claims. We'll kind of let this pass. I think they make durability claims with the Gen 1 style, which I think are valid. But is that worth what you give up in, sweet spot? And in order for them to get this power, they're obviously weighting it up quite a bit. Other than the paddle techs, no one's been able to really achieve that level of power with the Gen 1 style with still maintaining decent weight.
Where would you put the firepower on the Engage Innovation?
On the Engage, so it's not quite paddle techs. It's probably 11.624 kind of area, maybe a little above that.
Okay.
So it's definitely up there, not top tier, but they're still pushing this Gen 1. They're selling these for $260. And I want to get your thoughts on just Gen 1 technology. Do you think it's still relevant? Should brands be pursuing this? Like, can you imagine a paddle tech thermoformed and in that better sweet spot? It would be nice, right?
Yeah. And part of it is that, these are made in the USA and they don't have the facilities and the infrastructure to do thermoforming
is that what it
easily
is?
here.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I know that it's developing, but the factories in China kind of have that nailed down. And also the labor is so labor intensive to thermoform. It's like, imagine, going to IKEA and you get the instruction manual and it's like 1,000 different parts, I've seen a video of people putting together a thermoform paddle, and it's literally like numbered little patches of carbon fiber, the unidirectional carbon fiber, and a little guide, and they're gluing them in different spots. It takes forever to do that in the US. to
cost a fortune.
It would cost a fortune. But yeah, I love this question. But first, can I ask you? I didn't get the spec sheet really on the innovation. It's a Gen 1. Is it? I saw some like balance thing that they're doing.
I forget what they call it, but they essentially just added more weight in certain places. Okay. And
did you X-ray it?
I haven't X-rayed it yet. Okay. As far as I can tell, it was just mostly a weight manipulation.
Okay.
They use some fancy words for it, but outside of the adding weight and where they put it, I don't really know if they say they're using like a spin core, but the way they describe the spin core is in terms of weight placement, and so I'm not sure if this was more than just a weight addition.
Right.
But presumably they did something a little bit different to the core, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's still the black core that they were using. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's still space in the paddle arena for Gen 1 technology, but it has to hit pretty special. And a lot of people have kind of tried to capture the magic of paddle tech with the wide cell polypropylene. And
no one's quite mimicked it yet, though.
No. Something about that particular polypropylene is pretty special. Now, I think some people are getting close, and I love the feel of, different wide cell paddles that are thermoformed,
So some have come out. You have like the Racquetx Pro Saga. You have the Thrive Smoke, or the two I can think of.
Yeah, Thrive Smoke hits great. So does the Saga. Even, I went to an event with Matt Cox from Chorus Pickleball in Dallas, and he let us play with all of these fires that were delisted, and he also has some new iterations of the fire. I don't think he's going to put them out, but that paddle hits great, and he had some without the fiberglass on the top layer, so it was just like the 3 layers of woven 3K carbon fiber. Those things played amazing.
Oh, really?
Like, I think the fiberglass was actually a hindrance, especially being on the surface, because it made it super stiff.
Yeah.
And man, and it's wide cell, and it's not crazy powerful. That thing was a really good paddle. I hope to see that in a different formula in the future.
But that was a Gen 1 wide cell?
No, it's a Gen 2.
Oh, so you're just saying if combining those two can be nice.
Right, for sure. But then, I haven't hit with the new engages, but the Spartus Orion is something similar, and they're trying to capture it. I'll send you, I have an X-ray of this.
I saw that on your podcast. Yeah, they have the targeted weighting, the flanks, I think the flank system they have.
Yep.
But it's still a Gen 1.
Still a Gen 1, and they're just it's really similar to what Paddletech's doing. They don't put the ball bearings in, but this gel is like a metallic gel to add some weight, and they're putting it in.
Almost like an Evora kind of thing?
Yeah. And putting it at 9 and 3, and in the neck of the hand, just where the handle interfaces with the paddle face. I don't like it that the 3 cells are filled on one side versus
the
2 on the other.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I'm sure that wasn't intentional.
My OCD kind of gets triggered by that, even though there's probably no way to really tell on the court. But I think those hit great, and for the price, there's a budget paddles. You can get them for like $80 on Amazon.
Yeah, like, is that the play for, like, is Gen 1 mostly just a budget control paddle now? Is that really the only place it makes sense? Because in the power space, particularly for Paddletech, and Paddletech does hit special, but you still have the sweet spot challenges.
Yep.
And same with these engages. Unless you're US made only, I don't think there's a performance benefit with the Gen 1 style anymore.
Same. Yeah, I think we're going to see it more relegated to the budget paddle category, or entry-level paddles, Gen 1 technology for sure. And I love the interview you did with Justin, Pickleball,
did you get to
about foam? Yeah, I watched it on the way up here today.
But let's talk foam for a second, because I think this is interesting. So I did that interview with Justin. I did that interview with him to get a better understanding of the pros and cons to foam. I think a lot of the advertising we've seen for foam is just the pros, right? And it's our job to kind of cut through the marketing and try to understand, what's legit, what's not, what do we need to pay attention to aside from what the brands are saying. So I wanted to do that interview with him to learn about foam. Like, is it really this all fix all solution? And my conclusion from it is foam does solve a lot of the problems we're facing with honeycomb, in the sense of the thermoforming and the core crush, because you can have lower tolerances with the manufacturing process and still have the product you want at the end of the day.
It's essentially filling in the gaps, right?
Yeah, it's filling in the gaps. You can't compress it. You're not going to have the core. So it does solve these issues that we're facing with honeycomb with core crush and some of these things that are more challenging on the manufacturing side. But it's possible that it is presenting a new set of challenges that honeycomb didn't have to deal with. So one is the adhering the face to the foam. Disbonding is going to be potentially more prevalent with foam. And temperature could be a factor. So we haven't hit summer with foam paddles yet. Justin thinks that maybe if you leave your paddle in the car and there could be some fluctuation in the size of the foam with the heat and change of temperatures that could affect how it plays, maybe pushes towards disbonding. And so some of these questions are in the air, but it's I was kind of sold on the durability benefits of foam, and I do think we both agreed it's a step in the right direction, and it's more likely going to have less issues durability wise than honeycomb, but it's still not this perfect solution yet, and which was kind of eye-opening to me because I didn't understand what the cons were to foam. And so it was a really good interview, and so those are things we're just going to have to pay attention to as foam paddles come out with the disbonding and potential fluctuations or things with heat. But it was really good. I enjoyed it. Justin's a smart guy, and it was fun to get a third-party opinion and not trying to be sold a paddle. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I think he brought up a lot of good points, and you know where I kind of see this going, and I loved kind of the predictions part of the final part of your interview because I always love going there. So yeah, I agree. I think foam is very much the future, at least foam enhanced paddles. And when you go back and look at kind of the history, it's gotten a bad name, Gen 3, because of polypropylene core crushing, and that's not what's happening. That's not foam's fault. It was because they were compressing polypropylene cores. So the mod issue and the Gen 3s before that, and Yola's been very open and forthright about what happened there. You know, they were compressing the cores of their Gen 2 paddles, so the original Hyperion.
Which I was actually very surprised when I heard that because I didn't think those were particularly powerful.
No, and they weren't, and they had their fair issues of core crushing and core corruption also, but no more than any other brand of thermoform paddles. But something about making that into the Gen 3 and Gen 4 with the propulsion core really just broke down the polypropylene so much quicker, right? Mm-hmm. Basically as soon as you hit it. So now that we know that, we know how to make a more durable Gen 3 paddle combining polypropylene and foam. And we're seeing that with the Pro 4s at this point. And so there's that aspect where it's kind of I don't want to call it hybrid, but you're using multiple components within the core, polypropylene and foam in this case, versus full foam cores like what Carbon's doing and Selkirk with their 008 and many others now, Diadem. So those play differently. And I think we're going to continue to see experimentation with different foams on full foam cores, expanded polypropylene or polystyrene or whatever, and B, these combination cores of existing known materials and foam and different types of foam in the cores, right? So you could have you could have the same true foam core that Carbon's using, and they could add some softer, less high density foam around the edges, similar to what Yola's doing with that white spongy foam, or this white soft foam, and that might put it around the edge. It might dampen it a little bit more. It could give it a little more dwell. So I think innovation in this realm is going to be key.
Yeah, that's kind of what we concluded too. Is exactly what you just said. Where I think the real draw to foam cores and variations that'll come from it is the performance possibilities. We both agreed that the potential for performance in paddles is, and the options are a lot bigger. The ceiling is a lot higher with incorporating foam in there, with either a solid foam core or some sort of mix. It is just so much more infinite than what you could do with just a polypropylene core. And so, although a lot of these foam cores are touting, durability, maybe they are a little bit durable in some ways, but the real draw, we think, to to foam cores is the performance possibilities and what you can build and create afterwards, assuming that they can find the right mix and get the adhesives and everything right. And which is exactly what you said. Like, the future is wide open, and it'll be interesting to see what people come up with. And that's the draw to foam more than maybe the durability aspects of it, which might be a slight side effect benefit.
Yeah, I would even go beyond just the pure performance and function of the paddle and go into like the feel and the like I was saying, this kind of experience you get with the paddle, both in terms of the looks and the auditory signals and the way the vibrations coming into your hand, because I think in general people want a softer paddle. It's more appealing to most people. Some people love the stiff paddles and they want to feel connected to the ball more so, but I think most people like a foamier feeling paddle with a little more dwell time, closer to a tennis racket. And if the regulation agencies can get the direct tests of spin, power, and break-in all locked down, then that's going to open up more freedom to innovate with materials.
Yes,
and not just cores, but even like surface layups. Like you can imagine if you can make a softer surface layup that grips the ball and imparts spin through friction, similar to the nanotech, but doesn't have to abide by A, deflection, and B, coefficient of friction, then it's going to be more durable, and you could potentially even get some of the vibration damping effects in the surface layup in addition to the core, right?
I like that, yeah.
And get a paddle that's not crazy hot, that doesn't spin, crazy spin within the limits, but feels so much better because you're getting this combination of the surface layup and the core together, and foam in certain parts. And so I think that's where the future's going.
Yeah, I love that.
Something else I was just kind of thinking about this on the drive up is I think there's a ton of untapped potential in edge guard technology. And what I mean by that is the edge guard, most people agree that edgeless paddles look better. They don't play as well as paddles with edge guard because you get vibration damping and weight distribution around the perimeter. And edge guards have evolved to become a little more rubbery and a little like better quality polymer in the edge guards. But the edge guard is an area of the paddle that doesn't have to be, there's no hardness test, there's no coefficient of friction test, and it doesn't have to pass deflection. So you can potentially
make a foam edge guard or something.
Make a foam edge guard, thermoform that sucker, make it look like a edgeless paddle that looks super sharp, but use like some sorbethane and other highly absorbent.
I don't know what that word is, but it sounds really cool.
A highly absorbent rubber, basically. You can't go crazy because it's going to be too much weight, but put it in certain spots, make certain spots that see more abrasion, a little more.
I love that. Why hasn't someone tried that yet? It seems like a low-hanging fruit.
Right. And I think, people are moving toward that. Thompson is kind of doing that a little bit with the urethane edge guard
wall there.
That's kind of built into the mold that I don't even know if they're thermoformed, but regardless, thermoformed edge guards made out of different materials to enhance the sweet spot.
That could change things up quite a bit.
Yeah. So I think that's...
I love that. Yeah, there's still so much that could be done.
Right.
It's going to be exciting. And there's enough money in the game where we're going to see some clever innovations. People are going to keep going, and I think we still got a couple of years ahead of us of some really fun innovations until we flatten out.
Yeah.
But I think we'll close it there. We were going to talk about the GX2s a little bit, but we're running a little long here, so we'll close it. But John, thanks for coming on. Always appreciate your insights and thoughts. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.